It's week 3, day 16 of my spinal rehabilitation. Quick status update. Today I'm feeling pretty tired. I'm definitely sore from the exercises I did with my personal trainer yesterday. It was the first time that we met, and so I expected there would be some aftermath. And here it is. I'm unusually tight in my upper lower and lower middle backs. So basically the lower region of my spine. And it interfered with my sleep. So I'm tired and I'm a little anxious about making the video today just because I don't feel like myself. But I told you I'd show you what's going on, and this is what's going on. For my tips today, I have one, which is leverage technology. So I went out and bought a new Fitbit app, or it's not an app. I bought the watch and the Versa 2, and it's pretty instrumental in my keeping track of what's going on with my body, especially my sleep. So I really bought it for the sleep function, just because it gives me detailed insight into what's going on while I'm sleeping. And I can usually tell how fitful my sleep is from my Fitbit. So I would encourage you to leverage technology. One of the other things that Fitbit gave me insight into was the fact that I had sleep apnea. I didn't know that. I'd been tested 4 years before. It came back negative. I got tested again because of what I saw with my Fitbit in the graphs and charts and whatnot. And it turned out I had it. So thank you, Fitbit, for helping me sleep better and giving me data. The other thing I do is I keep pretty meticulous Google Sheets of my workout regimen, and when I introduce new exercises, whatever it may be, and I record how I feel afterwards. So I have some kind of a log. This is one thing I wish I had started a long time ago, which is keeping comprehensive lists of medications that I've tried in the past, the side effects from those medications, etc., just so I had a running history, a running tally of everything I've ever tried, so I don't retry stuff again if I already know it doesn't work. The more records, the better is the basic principle behind all that. For the message today, I want to do kind of a deep dive into diet. I've talked a little bit about the fact that I'm incorporating diet into my rehabilitation. This is really the culmination of a few years of tinkering and playing around with diet. Sometimes I've succeeded, sometimes I haven't, sometimes I've fallen back. But this time I'm pretty committed to eating a certain way for the rest of my life. I don't want a quick fix. I don't want to quickly lose weight just to gain it all back. I'm trying to change my habits and the way that I eat so that I can sustain this for my entire life. In terms of diet, there are a lot of ideas floating around out there and a lot of fads. I'm not really into those, but I think there are a couple of areas of commonality between all of them, at least the good ones. And the first is that the SAD diet sucks. If you're not sure what the SAD diet is, it's an acronym. It stands for Standard American Diet. And basically everyone agrees the SAD diet is garbage. So if you're on that, anything other than the SAD diet would be an improvement. So I don't care if you're looking at keto or whatever, anything other than the SAD diet is a step up. The other general consensus is that whole foods are better than highly processed foods or even any processed foods. So the less processing you have in your diet, the better. In other words, you don't have to just eat raw, right? Some raw foods are good for you, but cooking some of your food is fine. But when you slice, dice, chop, and all that in a factory and strip out nutrients and other things like that and fiber and whatnot, what you get on the other side is not really the food that you should be eating. So reduce the amount of processed food in your diet. Everyone pretty much agrees on that. The other thing they agree on is that fruits and vegetables are good for you and you should be eating a lot of them. Some people who are on keto, for instance, will try to eat less fruit. For me, that's not a goal. I eat as much fruit as I want. I eat as much vegetable, actually more vegetables than I really want, because I don't love vegetables quite as much as I love fruit. But the point is I'm eating a lot of vegetables and fruit, and I don't think there's anyone out there that really would steer you away from those things. They're good for you. The reason I don't do keto, even though I know you can lose a lot of weight quickly on it, is because it's high in animal products. And there is a lot of research out there. I mean, it's overwhelming that animal products are not good for you. And if you consume them, especially in moderate to large quantities, you will have lifestyle diseases. You will have coronary artery disease at some point. You will have possibly a stroke at some point. And if you're male, this one really sucks. You'll get ED, some kind of erectile dysfunction. So if you want your member to work like it's supposed to the best of its capacity, whatever that is, do not eat lots of animal products. It's pretty sound advice. And that's why keto won't work long term, because it has lots of animal products, and you're going to inherit all of those lifestyle diseases if you eat keto. So if you want to lose weight, you're really obese and you've got to come down quick, fine, do keto, but do not make that your lifestyle choice. Okay, so let's go into the details really quick of my diet. Again, I'm trying to eat for life. This is not a fad. This is something I think I can sustain. I do consume animal products, even though I've knocked on them, but not a lot of them. It's very occasional, incidental, really. If there's like a birthday or Thanksgiving or Christmas or something like that, I will partake. But I do not make them a part of my regular diet. That's where I draw the line. For breakfast, I typically have oatmeal with some kind of varied fruit and varied nuts. For my sweetener, I favor Truvia. I don't add sugar. I like Truvia for the most part. And as far as I know, it doesn't cause cancer. It might, but I don't think so. So that's what I use for my sweetener. For lunch and dinner, I do a combination of basically just grain bowls. I mix up a bunch of different contents and make interesting grain bowls. For the grains, I use potatoes, quinoa, rice, couscous, all that kind of stuff. For the protein, I typically rely on beans. And for the veg, I just vary it. I have a lot of different kinds of vegetable combinations that I like to use. And then I typically have some kind of savory sauce, usually spicy, low in sugar. I have a big list of those that I can turn to, and to give my food some flavor. And typically, I enjoy this. I find this very satisfying. It's something I think I could eat for the rest of my life. There are exceptions when we travel, and if we have holidays and stuff like that, I do go off diet. But I consider those to be acceptable exceptions, right? They're few and far and in between. The last thing is I do practice intermittent fasting, and it wasn't that I was trying to. I knew of intermittent fasting, and I think the principle makes sense in general. In case you don't know what that is, I basically delay eating. So I lengthen out the time of, actually what I'm doing is shortening my eating window by lengthening the amount of time that I don't eat during the day. I wasn't deliberately trying to do this when I started my rehab, but I found myself going to the gym in the mornings and not getting home until like 12 or 1. And so it was just natural for me to not eat before that. That being said, there are some days where I feel pretty weak and don't have a lot of energy. And that's, for example, today I had an apple before I went to the gym. Another thing sometimes I use to get me jump started is a little bit of coconut water. That usually kind of gives me a little bit of a pick-me-up. But for the most part, I do practice intermittent fasting in the mornings. There is also data out there showing that intermittent fasting works best at night. So if you're going to actually fast, you should stop eating earlier in the evening, and then have your breakfast at a normal time. That would actually be ideal intermittent fasting, but with my workout schedule, I just can't quite do that. And so I settle for second best, and I fast in the mornings. I already mentioned my jump starters, so I do have a list of things that I will use to help me get moving when I can't move. Apples, I have some teas I like, coconut waters, things like that. But that in a nutshell is my diet, and it works pretty well. I do consistently bring down weight when I'm on it. I don't feel hungry. I eat copious amounts of food. I'm not starving myself in the slightest, really. And I find it very sustainable and fulfilling, and I hope it helps you. If you have any ideas about how you think I should be eating or how you eat and what works for you, please share those in the comment section under this video. I'd be happy to get your input and incorporate your good ideas into my life. And similarly, I'm hoping some of my ideas will help you. My slogan again is to fight for your life, and part of that means you have to fight for your body. And one way that you do that is by consuming healthy foods, primarily, and not making it harder on your body than it has to be. Give it the resources that it needs. Keep it in a healthy state. Don't stress out your immune system. Don't eat processed sugar in copious quantities, that kind of stuff. Just be nice to your body, and it will respond much better than if you don't. And if you're like me and have a chronic condition, carrying around extra weight is a really, really bad idea. So I am trying to shed anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds. It kind of depends on where my muscle mass ends up. Weight is not really the most important thing. It's more about body composition. So I don't really have like a target weight. Yeah, I'd like to be 150, but if I have quite a bit of muscle and I end up at 170, I'm okay with that, as long as my body composition ratios work out the way they're supposed to. So as you're fighting for your life, fight for your body, and part of that means fighting to eat the right things.